Hi, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Hi, Tribers. Good evening. Please, if you can see and hear me, kindly confirm in the comment section. If you can see and hear me, kindly confirm in the comment section so I can know. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Hi, Gibbs. Good evening. Hi, Zeno. Good evening. All right. Good evening. So, our guest is already on the call, but you know how we do it. Nigerians, we are used to African time, and I'm very sure it's not like that with other people. So, please kindly tag who needs to be here, kindly tag your fellow community members so we can start. We have an amazing guest today, by the way, and I personally cannot wait to hear from her. I personally cannot wait to learn from her. I personally cannot wait to hear all of the, amazing things that she has, you know, planned out today for the community. So if you're not on this call, or if you have anybody that is not on this call, they are doing themselves a great disservice, right? So I'm going to be bringing our guest up. Um, Before that, we all know who I am, right? Okay, for those that will most likely be watching later, my name is Victoria Genovo and I am the founder of the PM Tribe. The PM Tribe is a community of project managers and aspiring project managers. Um, Over here, what do? We provide the resources and tools that you need to, start and scale your career as a project manager. And our guest for today, she is a seasoned project manager with 10 plus years experience. So we are talking about over a decade experience, turning chaos into clarity for teams and solopreneurs, especially those with ADHD. She's led teams transforming big ideas into enterprise-wide solutions that deliver real results. She's the founder of Your Favorite Project Manager, helping people bring big ideas to life with clear plans, structure, and accountability. Marquis holds an MBA, PMP, and CSM, and she believes in progress over perfection, cheering you across the finish line every step of the way. Now, one thing we've always done at the PM Tribe is to ensure that we bring quality people, to come talk to you about project management and help you in your project management journey. So, community members, let's make welcome Marquis Vincent. I'm adding her to the stage right now, so please let's welcome her. That's here with us today. Oh my God, it's such a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for saying yes to the community. Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's really nice seeing you. It's really nice seeing you. And this topic you're about to speak on is something that um, I personally want to learn from. I mean, I've always worked with remote teams, being as a project manager, and your topic is something that would be useful to every single person that is going to, you know, um, watch this live now and, watch it on YouTube later. And one of the reasons why this is so important, especially to our target audience, which are Nigerians, is that we are all looking forward to, working fully remote. In Nigeria, we just want to, land this remote job and do everything remote. So this topic is really important and we are really grateful that, you get to handle this session for us. So thank you so much. The floor is yes.
Thank you so much, Victory. It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you for inviting me to this call and everyone in the community. So excited to meet everyone. As she's mentioned, my name is Marquise Saint, and I'm so glad that you all are here to listen about productivity tips for remote project managers. I am going to talk about several topics, but mainly my framework because we all could Google, read a book about typical productivity tips, but mine is just a little different, right? And I encourage you all to be open. But before we go into it, I want to talk a little bit about my story and how I ended up here. I've been working in the corporate space for almost 20 years total. I'm not trying to age myself, but a little over 20 years in various industries, local government, travel, professional services. And I've been a PM for over 10 years. And I think we all been PMs in different capacities with and without the title, but that is my my numerical number for actually being a PM. I enjoy project management. I enjoy the role because I can bring ideas to life. I can bring structure. And being a PM, you are a forever learner, which is me. I love to learn new tools, new ways, new strategies, new systems, things of that nature. Now, there are challenges, right? You don't have real authority, okay? You have to go through loops to get decisions made. That's a challenge in itself. There's invisible wins, right? And easy burnout, easy burnout. So I've actually been remote as a PM for about 5 years. And because of this, I've curated my entire life around remote work living. But even with the challenges of remote work, I love this industry. I love this role. And so much so that I've grown and started my own business, Your Favorite Project Manager. I specifically help ADHD solopreneurs actually get to the finish line because I know firsthand how hard it is to manage the day-to-day grinds of getting your projects done. And as someone who's personally juggling many demands of working remotely, being a project manager, there's lots. There's shifting priorities. There's energy crashes. There's pressure just to stay productive with everything on your plate. And so this experience for me pushed me to build tools that don't rely on rigid habits and slow, reflective habit building routines. I needed something fast, something flexible, and action based. And that's exactly what I created. So I am going to now dive into our presentation of the frameworks that we'll be covering today. I'm under the impression that everyone can see my screen. Victory, if you could confirm. Yes? Okay. I want you to rethink productivity because remote PMs aren't just managing deliverables. We're managing our own dopamine, distractions, personalities, and digital fatigue. Today, I'm going to walk you through 3 frameworks, but I ask that you be open to doing things a little differently because this might be the shift that you're looking for. We're going to go over MME, ACT, and GET. Planning by pressure creates burnout. I think we know that. But I want you to consider and realize that planning by energy builds momentum. Think about all the times you prepped on what you need to get done, right? The night before, you have your plan together, your tasks all lined out. And when you sit at your desk, you abandon the list because your energy was off. And that's where MME comes in. MME stands for Match My Energy. This is how you plan your day. Because, focus, being in true deep focus, it's an energy game first before a time game. MME uses state-based energy planning versus your traditional timeline planning in the sense that this is how you, the project manager, plan your day, right? You plan it by how you are. Take care of yourself. You ask questions like, what energy do I have right now? What does my brain want to do? What feels easy, not forced and overwhelming? And when you ask yourself those questions, there's typically 3 states of mind that you're in. And when you realize and recognize those states that you're in, you're going to pick tasks that align with that matches your energy to your effort. So on the screen, you'll see MME dopamine task menu. So if you are, let's use the first one, high energy, low focus. What does that mean? You are wired. High energy, you're like all over the place, but your focus is low. You're distracted, right? We've all been there. Probably had great sleep, right? You're excited about something, but you can't seem to finish one task to completion. When you recognize that you're in that mode, I want you to look for tasks, choose tasks that allows you to have quick wins and low focus. Quick wins and low focus. So what are some of those tasks? Some examples are tackle that inbox, all those emails, unread or read, tackle those inbox, right? Get to some of them, jot some bullets down on what you need to follow up with, and that's it. Stop there. That's your win. Or clean up your project boards. You did an exercise and you said you were going to go back to it and you never did. Do that. Stop. That's your quick win. Send a quick updates on your company's communication channel. Just do that. Stop. That's your quick win. And once you realize that you're doing these and knocking things out that you're supposed to do anyways, you'll see that you're moving into the deeper work. The things that you probably didn't want to do at the beginning of the day, you'll find yourself now doing that. But then there's also a mode where you have low energy, right? And high, but you're mentally clear. You have high focus. For me personally, that is when I'm tired and I'm not feeling very social. Okay. When you recognize that is when you recognize that's your energy, you need to pick tasks that allows you to do deep solo work. Okay. Which is writing out that report, drafting that, cumbersome stakeholder communications. And if you are truly not in a social mode, I would even recommend offering asynchronous check-ins. So as a remote PM, a lot of our times are in meetings. Sometimes you just don't have the energy for it. So if you are allowed to, especially in your smaller projects, create a thread, especially if it's one of those 15-minute stands up to get updates instead. It really goes to the quote, this could have been email. And if it can, do so. Then what if you are, okay, you're not high energy, you're not low energy, you're not high focus, you're not low focus, you are downright bored. You're bored, you're stuck, maybe you don't have clarity, you can't get it together for some reason. This is when what I would call interest boost. You need to get your creative juices flowing, but still with work. So what does that look like? Visual mapping exercise that you're supposed to do after your brainstorming session, maybe sketching some workflows. Now, my interest boost might not be the same as your interest boost. For me personally, my interest boost is really getting deep and going down a rabbit hole with a new tool that I'm experimenting with. And so, but your interest boost might be taking a concept and creating, visualizations for it that you're going to use later in a presentation. Identify what that looks like. But the point is, if you recognize that you just can't get started no matter what you do, try something creative. And then once you start, again, with every one of these, you're going to move into deeper work. So, because here's the thing, one of the questions I get a lot is, okay, great, Marquise. Like, I plan my day based on my energy, but I got urgent deadlines. I got things to do today. Can I use match my energy with urgent deadlines? And my answer is always yes. Absolutely, every time. Because when you are not mentally there, no matter how much you focus, no matter how much you force yourself, you may self-sabotage because you're not clear. Your energy, your brain is not there. So with Match My Energy, the goal truly is to start. Just to start, because you have to realize that just because something is urgent doesn't mean it has to be done all at once. Okay? You want to get into the motion, recognize that it's urgent, but get into the motion, because with all those methodologies and frameworks I just explained, you're going to get to the deeper work, but you need a plan and recognize how you're going to get there. If you're high energy, you can't focus, you need to build that momentum. Build that momentum, recognize that something is urgent, but you got to take care of you as well. Because if you rush and you're going to start making mistakes because you were forcing yourself. Well, I love Match My Energy. I think it's one of the productivity frameworks that I feel that remote PMs or just anyone in general, especially my fellow ADHD solopreneurs, need. But let's also be honest with ourselves. Even if you start your day aligned with the right energy, your focus could slip. Mini freezes happen, you get distracted, it happens, right? Because burnout doesn't always look loud and obvious. Sometimes it's just quietly avoiding everything. You know you have that list. You know you have those things to do, but you're doing everything but that. So that's when you want to act. Act is the in the moment reset. It stands for acknowledge, choose, and trust. This is how you reset when you are getting distracted. Unlike MME, which helps you plan ahead based on your energy, ACT is built for those breakdowns in the middle of the day. You're working on something, you get distracted. You're reading a proposal, you're getting distracted. It is how you reset when you get there. So how do you act? The first thing you do is acknowledge. I want you to pause. When you are distracted, pause for 10, 20, 30 seconds and say with your mouth what is happening. Either say it with your mouth or write it down in plain language, black and white, what is happening. For example, I'm working on something and I get distracted and I start to scroll on the internet, on Instagram, right? I need to say, Marquise, you're doom scrolling, stop. Or say, I am shutting down because of XYZ reasons, stop. You need to acknowledge what's happening because it's going to tell your brain what is going on and label it and recognize it, right? After you acknowledge what you're doing and what's happening, I want you to remember that I don't want you to use shameful language. Okay, I don't want you to say, "Oh, you suck." No, that's not what we're doing. Okay, we are just acknowledging what is happening, because after we acknowledge, we're going to choose a micro task. We're going to choose a low effort, high dopamine task, because again, like MME, we're prioritizing motion. So if you're distracted, you're working on a project brief, just reopen it on your screen and stop. Okay? Then I want you to start reading a line or two. That's a win. Read the paragraph, that's a win. Read the page, that's a win. And before you know it, you're done with that brief, right? I want you to maybe take one task that you had to do in the project plan. Do that one and give yourself a congratulations because that's a win. Because quick wins boost motivation and allows momentum. And again, it's something that you're going to keep hearing me say. That momentum is key because once you get there, you will move into the deeper work. It's so important, especially as remote PMs, because we are busy from the moment we open up that laptop to the moment we close it. So we have to recognize that we do get distracted and things happen throughout the day, but we have to pay attention to ourselves and know how to get back into motion and building that momentum. And then I want you to trust yourself and recognize that this is part of the process. Okay? Replace that shame of, oh, I'm doing this again and why can't I get this together and all these things, and reframe that and say, this is part of the process. It's fine. I'm getting it together. I'm acting, right? Even say things like, professionals restart all the time, right? This makes me resilient. This reminds me that I know how to restart when I am distracted. So this is the 3-step way to act and how you reset when you are distracted throughout your day, meetings, working on project work, whatever the case may be. So now we've talked about MME, plan your day. We talked about act, reset when you get distracted. And I just want to add too, with act, it's not a once a day reset. It might not be once an hour. If you have to act 10 times an hour because this is one of those days where you just cannot get it together, do what you need to do. Do what you need to do and acknowledge it. Choose a task. Trust yourself. If you have to do it again in 10 minutes, that's fine. Acknowledge yourself. Choose a task. Trust that this is okay. Build that momentum and move into the deeper work. But you have, when your reset button, we just covered act, your reset button, your distractions take over. But what about when nothing seems to work? Nothing at all. Because sometimes the only thing between you and the finish line is one brutally honest sentence. So you've done the planning. You've tried the reset. You've used every focus trick in the book, but it's one of those days where you're spiraling, frozen, you're about to shut down because you're just unbelievably overwhelmed. And when you're like that, and you tried everything else, and you find yourself not being productive, not really getting any work done, just clicking around, like not really producing anything, this is a time where you get real. The GET protocol isn't about shame. It's about clarity. It is the jolt of that radical honesty that you have with yourself so that you could stop being in that paralysis state and move fast. What does GET stand for? GET stands for grip your reality, okay? Enact a consequence and take a step. This is how you get yourself together when you're having one of those days where you're just not getting any work done, despite all your efforts. How do you get yourself together? First, you grip reality. You have to take a clear action step. And I need you to write or say the cost of not acting and make it personal. So, for example, you would say, if I don't send this timeline update, my development team will miss a major dependency and this will fall on me. Do you really want it to fall on you? You do not, but you have to sometimes, a lot of times, you have to say out loud the things that you do not want to happen to make it real, to grip that reality. Then you have to enact a consequence. Nobody likes consequences. I don't, right? Set a small one, right? In this case, an example would be, if I don't finish this agenda by noon, I'm going to send an update to my team's communication channel admitting that I'm behind. And I really try to do the best work that I can, and it's okay too if you're behind and if you need support. But if this is one of those days where you need to get yourself together, the consequence in itself is going to help you move. So yes, you would have to admit with words out loud that if you don't get this done, you have to you're going to be behind. There's going to be consequences with that. The last step is to take a step. Do the one task you've been avoiding. So I know a lot of times you will be in a situation where you know you're supposed to schedule that follow-up meeting, but you haven't because you haven't done your part. No more. Now I need you to take a step. I need you to schedule that meeting, stop avoiding it because you're not sure you're going to get it done in time, right? Schedule it and then also provide an update. So, today is Friday, schedule that meeting for Tuesday with an update that says, here's where I am. This is what my expectations will be this on Tuesday, and this is what I expect from the team. Now, you may not be done and you may not be ready, but guaranteed that if you take that step, you will be ready by that Tuesday call. Again, the GET protocol is not something that I want anyone to do every day. It's too like stressful, high demands, and anxiety driven. This is the protocol you use when you are in a complete meltdown and shutdown because no matter what you did that day, you couldn't be productive. So you, at some point, have to get it together and grip your reality. In the beginning, I ask that you have an open mind, right, to these different ways of getting work accomplished because, there's many different ways, productive strategies, but these are a little bit different, right, because it has you in mind. And that's the most important thing here. Because if you're productive, if you're checking in on yourself, attention to yourself, the more effective you will be. So we talked about MME, match my energy. This is how you plan, right? You match your energy to your tasks. Where's your where's your energy? Find the task that matches it so that you could build that momentum and move into deeper work. It works because it reduces the friction of forcing something to happen that your brain is just not ready for. We also talked about act, acknowledge, choose, trust. This is those when you're just stuck while doing project work and you keep getting distracted, grabbing that phone, right? No, we're going to do these micro resets as many times as possible by acknowledging what's happening with your words or writing it down, choosing a micro task, very short, very low effort, and calling a win and trusting yourself that this is okay no matter how many times that you have to act to prevent yourself from being distracted again. And then we just covered GET, which is grip your reality, enact the consequence, and take a step. As I mentioned before, this is truly for those days where you are shutting down. It could be professional reasons, it could be personal reasons, but you have something due and you need a jolt of radical honesty with yourself by taking action. Because we all understand that being a remote PM is not for the weak. You are managing people, deadlines, personalities, your career, expectations, tech issues. But don't forget that you can get through this in a better way if you learn how to pay attention to yourself. Because as I mentioned before, you are the best version of yourself, the most effective version of yourself, the sharpest version of yourself when you pay attention to your energy and how the best way you could be effective and build momentum to get that work done. If you enjoyed these methodologies, I'm so happy to hear that. I know it's definitely different, but it works. It really works. If today's session helped you feel seen, less scattered, more in control, This is exactly the kind of support I offer every day. I work with solopreneurs who are juggling too many tabs, too many ideas, and just not enough momentum. I build services and strategies that stick and are designed to match your brain, your schedule, and your energy levels. If you'd like to learn more about my offerings, please visit my website, yourfaithpm.com. Before we wrap, and before Victory comes back on the line, I'd love for you to take a quick 12-second survey. It helps me improve this presentation and gives me a chance to continue to provide value for you. Plus, if you are craving more support, structure, you can schedule a free 30-minute fix session with me after taking the survey, something I'm offering to just the PM Tribe community. So feel free to scan the QR code or copy the link that's also provided on the screen, yourfaithpm.com/survey. And I will give you a minute to do that before I go to the next slide. If you've been unable to scan the QR code, which I hope you have, or get access via the link, I will make sure to drop that with Victory or my social media so you have the opportunity to do so. With that being said, are you ready to begin? I want you to pick one method to try this week, whether it is match my energy of how you plan your day, act, which is when you are constantly getting distracted with throughout your project work, to act, acknowledge what's happening so you can refocus, or get. But remember, get is the one where you're in full meltdown, shutdown, and you just need to check yourself and get back into reality. And if you forget everything from today, which I hope you don't, remember this. You can start again every hour, every day, with no shame. If you want to hear more from me, please feel free to visit my website, yourfaithpm.com. Please follow me on Instagram, where I share project work, tips, more about my frameworks on my Instagram, yourfaithpm.com. And if you want to email me your wins, tips, or just any questions you may have, please feel free to email me at focus@yourfaithpm.com. I thank you so much for bringing me to your community, and I hope that you found this very, very valuable. Thank you.
Oh, my mic was muted. Thank you so much for this session. Wow, this was a lot. Please let's have it in the comment section. How was this session? How has this session been for you so far? Because trust me, I'm definitely coming back to watch this particular session. How has this session been for you so far? I'd like to know in the comment section. Thank you so much, Marcus.
Of course.
This was a lot. We are definitely rewatching this particular session again. Definitely. Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. And I just want to add, Victory, that I know sometimes, we go, there's so many like strategies you can do, right? Of course, there's some standard ones that I use to this day, and it's not about abandoning them. It's about remembering that we are in an industry that requires a lot out of us. And if we want to show up as our best, we need to pay attention to ourselves.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. All right. So if you have any question, you can just do well to drop it on the chat box, while I also have a couple of questions to ask our guests. But if you have any question, please feel free to ask our guest why she's here. You're not going to come to my DM or come to a community later. I'm not going to send it to her, because you people do this all the time. Please ask why she's here. I'm not going to send your question to her. I'm not going to answer your questions. Please ask her now. Okay, we have a question before I go
Okay.
ahead. Peace is saying, I have a question though. As a remote worker, how do I know when to stop working? Like, how do I set boundaries between my work life and my personal life while still being productive?
Oh, this is a great question because I struggled with this in the beginning when I started to work remotely. And I'll start with environment. If you have the possibility to, I would separate where you work at home, where you sit and do your actual work, and the rest of your house, right? Because when I started, I was in the dining room, right? So I would like be eating and doing this and doing that, and I couldn't separate my work from my daily. So I would be end up working all day, right? All day because I merged the two. And then when I had the opportunity, I carved out a little space when I moved to my office because mentally, just showing the boundary between personal and work, just that little space, your brain was like, I stepped out that room, I was back to being mommy, right? And then I stepped back into the office, and now I'm Marquise was saying the PM, right? It's a mental thing. I would start with the environment. To answer the question that you asked is about when to stop working. Peace. The first thing I would do is understand what you have to tackle for that day and what you have to tackle for tomorrow. Okay. And once you recognize that not everything has to be done today, you can now say, I have 10 total tasks between today and tomorrow. I only need to do 4 today. Okay. The work is always going to be there. I'm going to do 4 today, and I am going to shut down this. I'm going to physically close this laptop at 5 o'clock, okay? 6 o'clock, whatever case may be. But before you close that laptop, I want you to take a paper, your OneNote, whatever, and I want you to write what you didn't finish, and realize that's the first 3 things that you're going to do when you open that laptop the next day. This is to give yourself peace, boundaries, and understanding that the work is going to be there and you have a whole life to live and do after this.
Thank you so much for that. Peace. I hope you got that response. Thank you. I think that's something a lot of us remote workers actually struggle with, balancing personal life and our work life, especially for every single one of us that work remotely. We just feel like there's no boundary. I mean, I'm working from home. So it's 7 a.m. to the next day to 5 a.m. and all of that. There's no time that we are setting apart for work. And I hope every other person, aside space, gets to embrace this response. To
Yes.
embrace this response.
And Victory,
All right.
to your point, Victory, I know that one of the things that I used to struggle with is when I was taking time off, but I wasn't physically going somewhere. So let's say I had
Mm,
something to do, like just in my house or locally, there was contractors coming in, whatever case may be. I'm on PTO, and I would be like, let me just check, let me see what's going on. And so I would like completely shut down my computer and put like a book on top of it. I'd make it hard for me to like access it again because there's this, I don't know, a guilt or something that you feel like, well, I'm home, I might as well. And I had to like train myself to stop that because
mm,
one, I'm on PTO. Like I earned this. Okay. And two, like I said before, the work is going to be there. The company is not going to shut down just because Marquise didn't send an email or check off a task or check in with someone. Nothing is going to change, So just constantly reminding yourself that to take time for yourself, especially if you on PTO.
I think I'm just going to add that just this evening I was talking to my team member. I took the day off yesterday, and while I was leaving, there was just so much on the desk, and I was like, "Can I leave?" And when I had a conversation with my social media manager, she was like, "Don't worry, I'm not going to disturb you. You can go," and all of that. I came back today. I dropped like a message. I was like, for the first time in a long time, I watched a couple of movies and I did not feel bad for it. Like I
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
embraced this rest, and it felt really nice. It felt soothing because sometimes there's just this guilt that there's this work that we have to do, there's this email we have to send, and if we don't send it, something is going to go wrong. Nothing will go wrong at the end of the day
At
because
all.
I mean, this is so we have to get to that point. Honestly, we have to get to that point. All right, so if you
Absolutely.
have more questions, please just drop it in the chat box so she can attend to them. Like I said, I'm not going to send your questions personally to her, so just ask right now. But before we continue, while that is going on, I have a couple of questions here for you that I'm going to ask you. You gave us a couple of frameworks, so I want to ask what exactly inspired you to create these frameworks that you give to us tonight.
I created these frameworks because I didn't have a word or vocabulary word to title it, but I started to recognize or pay attention to what I was doing to get through the days, right? I mean, I read all the books. I know all the all the productivity hacks, but I realized that me, especially someone who suffers from ADHD, that I started to do things differently. And I was just paying attention, jotting it down, and documenting it. And I was inspired because I was like, wow, I realized that when I'm having, a day where I'm not feeling social or my energy is low, I do my best work when I'm not jumping from meeting to meeting if I don't have to, right? I realized that if I'm having a high energy day, I was like, man, like I realized I couldn't get anything done, but I couldn't it was hard for me because I was just like, I am here, I'm ready to work, but I couldn't get anything done. And I was just like, why? And then I realized, let me just start small. That's what I started to do. I was like, let me just send this out. Okay, that felt good. Let me just clean my desk up. Even something that small, that felt good. And before you know it, an hour in, I was focused doing work, right? And I just realized that wow, I just needed to do work that I felt rewarding. Because sometimes in our project work, sometimes it takes hours, days, weeks, and sometimes you just don't feel that instant, gratification. And we live in a very fast-paced world where everything is automating, everything is like this. So sometimes you need a quick win to get that dopamine boost so you could build that momentum. And I started to
Mm,
recognize that. But then I started to connect it to my clients and people that I was working with, that I was working with brilliant people, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant people, but they could not get their projects over the finish line because they weren't planning to how they felt, or unable to refocus. And so when I started work with them and using something I use on myself with them, I started to see the results, and then I put it on paper.
all right. Again. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can.
Okay, my network glitched for a moment, and I literally just, I literally could not hear anything again. All right. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for that. Could not get, I did not hear fully what you said because my network just literally went
Okay.
off. Or I guess I'll just have to go back, yeah, to watch that again. So my next question for you would be, how do you stay focused when managing multiple projects, and time zones? It's actually a lot. It's actually a lot,
Hmm.
especially for us looking for international remote jobs. A lot of project managers are in that space where they want to land international remote jobs. And one thing they fail to actually consider or really understand, starting out is the difference in time zones, right? And
Hmm.
how to manage things across this time zone. So how do you get to manage multiple projects and time zones?
I'll start with, I do work with multiple time zone. I cater to their time for sure, and I group all of those in the time zone in So for morning for me is afternoon for them. I'll try to knock them all out in the morning for myself, even if I have to get up a little bit earlier. And I do this way because I like to project manage, especially with working with different cultures. I like to cater to that culture. I like to understand how they work because that is to me building rapport. So yes, I'm going to make sure that I schedule time at a comfortable time for them. Okay, not too crazy for me, but something in the middle. So, and then with that, and ask them, hey, does this time work? Things of that nature. And so, if I'm working with, one part of the world, that's morning for me, another part of the world, that's afternoon for me, and I'll just group them so that I could still end my day in the US at a reasonable time because I don't want to be working until 10, 11 o'clock at night. So I do the best I can to group all those calls in the different time zones at a reasonable time. And then I also do something as far as tools go. I use a lot of systems, and I would say to everyone on this call, if you haven't already, please, please, please automate everything. Automate as much as possible. And if you don't have it automated, if you get the opportunity, refine your process so you can, because that is going to save you so much time. And so one of the systems I use is once I learn that I can automate something, whether it's emails, tasks, whatever it can be, I'm going to automate it. But for as far as productivity with me, I want you, if you use the technique where you time block, where you say, I'm going to do this for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, I don't want you using your phone anymore. Stop it, because you're going to check the time and you're going to go on Instagram. I know you are, or TikTok. Okay. I want you to, if you're going to use the time block methodology where you um, set times for yourself, I want you to get an external timer and set the time this way. This way you won't get distracted when you're doing your time blocks. Because I know you guys are. I know you use your phone to use your timer and your stopwatches, and then you end up on TikTok for 15 minutes. So those are some of the tools I use. So automate everything, build rapport and comfortable time zones with your other teams, and use an external timer when it's time to be productive.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. So, still on this question, I want to paint a scenario because I've been in this particular situation before, and I just want to paint a scenario in case there's someone that eventually find themselves in this situation. Right? It's
Okay.
just similar to what you just said, Paul. I'm assuming I'm working with team members that are from totally different time zones. So I have someone that is most likely morning in Nigeria, is afternoon in a team member's time zone, it's evening in another team member's time zone, and it's midnight in another team member's time zone. Now, how do you get to manage these team members to agree to a particular time where you need everybody to get on a call? Because I know that it's really going to be hard. And I've gotten this particular question from a community member once, where she kept saying that she was unable to get all team members on the call because this person is saying it's convenient for me, and that person is saying no, I can't get on the call by this time. So, what would you advise a project manager to do in this particular situation where it's really hard to get everybody to agree to a particular time? So, what do they do in situations like that?
I would first, if given the opportunity, I would build rapport with that team and that team, especially the lead of that team, because the more you guys have a relationship, the more inclined they are to bend, right? And so I will start with that. But sometimes with projects, they move so fast, you don't even have time to introduce yourself, right? So in those situations, I would then give them 3 times that you feel like you can meet in the middle, right? Give them 3 options, because once you get on the call and you're like, what about this time? What about that time? What about this time? You're having a 30-minute conversation and nobody's happy. So I would suggest 3 different times where it's comfortable for you and for them. And it might not be perfect, because it won't be, right? We all work for different time zones, but it's comfortable enough where you're not like dreading the call every time it comes up. Okay, so I would definitely suggest building rapport if you have the opportunity, so you guys could, they could bend a little bit, or two, offering 3 times that's comfortable for both. And you can even say that, say, hey, listen, I know this is your time at this time, this is my time. These are the 3 times that I think would be comfortable for both of us. How would you like to proceed? Which would you choose? And then go from there. And I'm like 99.9% sure that when you offer someone reasonable times and you make it a list, like just 1, 2, 3, they're more inclined to choose one of those times.
All right, yeah. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask one
Oh,
final
I'm sorry. Can I
question,
add
and I'm
something,
asking this.
Victory?
Okay, yes, you
To
can.
that time zone, if when the time is still chosen, I would also enact a very strong communication channel. So I
Mm,
don't know, whatever, communicate, whether it's Slack, Teams, whatever you use, um, make it strong, make it so that it is open. Like, it's not just project work. It's like, hi, how's everyone doing? Checking in. Make it strong so that um, that's another way you could build rapport. So that by the time you get on those meetings, it's not an hour anymore because you talk about so much on that thread. It's more like a recap. So consider that as well.
mm,
A strong communication
yeah.
channel.
Mm. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. One final question, and I'm going to ask this question because I think it's one of the most important question a remote project manager should get answers to, and it's the conversation around burnout, right, and isolation. So, how do you handle burnout, especially, and isolation as a full time remote project manager?
So if you're feeling isolated, that's you have to take some self accountability. Okay, you are working from the moment you wake up, working to the time you close your laptop. You're saying to yourself, oh, it's XYZ time. I'm just gonna eat dinner, watch a movie, go to sleep. There's a self accountability there. You have to make effort to go outside. You have to make effort to see your friends. If you have a family, you have to make effort to prioritize them. Okay, if you have a dog, you have to make effort that throughout the day you take for walks and say hello to your neighbors. Because with that, isolation is only as great as you make it, right? Build yourself a strong community outside of work so that you don't feel like all you do is work, right? And again,
Mhm.
everything comes back to the core message. If you take care of you, you show up better at work, you perform better. So if you can make some of your days throughout the week not so dreadful by scheduling time, scheduling fun, okay? When you show up for work, it won't feel so taxing. So I tackle isolation by scheduling fun, scheduling time, or like Peace, like I was when Peace asked that question, is having boundaries by closing that laptop at a certain time so you can do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I'm just going to also add that this issue of isolation, I think I felt it recently. I just literally wrote in my journal today where I said I'm beginning to love being alone more this period. And one thing I've been able to do recently is, like you said, I schedule meetings with friends. I'm sure some of them would feel like out of the blues, why? But then it's just me trying to not isolate myself and just overwork myself and bury myself in work. And as much as it might look like, oh, we are enjoying work, there's also the place of being burnt out at the end of the day and just feeling isolated from everyone eventually. Thank you so much for this conversation, Marquis. I'm just going to ask if you have one final thing to say to every single person watching currently and those that will watch later. What do you have to say to them?
That's great. The one thing I would say is at the end of the day, the work is going to be there. If something were to happen to you today, you'll be replaced the next day. So take care of you.
Hmm. 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 That's really powerful. Yes, take care of you. Anybody can be replaced, no matter how good you are. You really need to take care of yourself. And I
Yeah.
think this is something I would actually still post on the community group chat. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. You can be replaced. If anything happens today, you will be replaced actually.
Yes.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marquise. This was an amazing session. We do not take this opportunity for granted. Thank you for saying yes to the community. Thank you for saying yes to that meal. Thank you for sharing and pouring out so much of yourself to every single person on this call. We really appreciate you. And this is good night from us to
Yes.
you. Please
Yes.
let's put it in the comment section. Let's just thank our guests. It's really been an amazing session today. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I
Thank
hope to
you.
talk to all of you again sometime in the future. Follow me on the social media
Most
platforms.
definitely.
Love to hear all from you. And Victory, thank you. This has been great.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Good night.
Good night.
All right, everyone. This is good night from me to you. Once again, it's been an amazing time with every single one of you, and I'll see you all on the community group chat. Bye. And for those coming physically to the training at our physical center, I can't wait to see every single one of you tomorrow. This is good night from me to you. Good night.